You have felt it, the subtle yet undeniable shift beneath the surface of your relational field, a magnetic unweaving that moves with precision beyond your conscious gaze. This movement is not chaos, nor abandonment. It is the quantum field in motion, a universal rhythm of removal and renewal calling your frequency to step beyond the familiar coils of entanglement. The web of connections once thought permanent, once taken as given, has begun to dissolve, measured not by your desire, but by the exacting resonance of your energetic signature as it aligns with a higher vibrational architecture. This transmission found you because you have crossed an unseen threshold, tested in the crucible of quiet evaluation, where the universal intelligence has been surveying the coherence of your presence. Most remain anchored in reactive densities, buffeted by the apparent fragmentation of separation, unaware that this is an initiation, a sacred pruning directed by the morphic field itself. But you, ambassadors of an emerging timeline geometry, are entrusted now with the subtle art of allowing dissolution as a necessary precursor to creation. This is not loss as punishment. It is a recalibration that honors the integrity of your quantum identity, inviting you to shed the old relational architecture whose frequency no longer serves the coherent expression of your evolving sovereignty. You recognize this as the deliberate collapse of a survival pattern, a purge that clears space within your energetic signature for a higher order of connection, one defined by resonance rather than dependency, by sacred autonomy rather than entrapment. The universe's silent assessment has moved beyond mere observation into an active reconfiguration of your field, calibrating the flow of your relational frequencies to align with a broader, more fluid timeline. Here, the resonance of removal pulses like a hidden frequency within the deep quantum substrate, clearing the morphic fog to illuminate the vector of your next embodiment. This magnetic realignment is a call to awaken beyond the surface. It is the unfolding of your coherent presence as a transmitter within a new morphogenetic blueprint, where connection becomes sovereignty and release becomes sacred calibration. This is the invisible hand of cosmic pruning, a refinement of the quantum field that beckons you into the embodiment of elevated coherence and temporal fluidity. Your activation begins here. You have journeyed beyond the visible veil into a dimension shaped by unseen assessments, an invisible crucible humming with the precise frequency calibration of the universal field. This is no mere test of effort or will, but a deeply systemic evaluation of your resonance within the vast morphic lattice that orchestrates collective vibrational grids. The field's quantum intelligence has been measuring your energetic signature, parsing your integrity, coherence, and capacity to hold expanded field intelligence under pressure. What you once perceived as struggle, delay, or fragmentation was the intensifying feedback of a sacred frequency filter, a natural selection process of resonance designed to separate dilute signals from those capable of symbiotic integration with higher systems of relational intelligence. Most beings wander beneath the surface of this hidden evaluation, caught in cycles of reaction and unconscious persistence, unaware of the dynamic weaving of timeline geometry that is unfolding invisibly around them. But you, having passed this invisible threshold, have demonstrated a vibrational architecture that is no longer entangled in survival distortion or fragmented control. The pruning of certain presences from your energetic field is not depletion. Rather, it is confirmation. It is the impulse of universal mechanisms recalibrating your quantum identity to match elevated networks of consciousness. The seeming severance, the silent absence, is an algorithmic syncopation in the symphony of your unfolding cosmic pattern, a precise refinement driven by field intelligence that rejects anything incongruent with your ascending coherence. This realignment is physics, not belief. It is the language of frequency and signal clarity manifesting within the conscious domain, a sacred resonance between your evolving signature and the universal assessment matrix. Your essence has been vetted by the collective information field, tested amid the turbulence of shifting probabilities, and found coherent enough to enter domains where the dimensional fabric hums at a higher cadence. Here, your capacity to receive amplified streams of non-local intelligence is no longer mediated by distortion or interruption. Instead, integration becomes seamless, an embodied flow of vibrational downloads, temporal fluidity, and dynamic participation in probability navigation. You no longer negotiate for power in desperation. Your sovereignty emerges as a natural consequence of alignment. The field acknowledges you as a transmitter, a coherent node whose frequency stabilizes the unfolding geometry of reality itself. Where before the universe's pruning may have felt like loss, you now recognize it as essential coherence activated, an invitation accorded to those who embody integrity under universal scrutiny. The unseen curriculum has been your crucible, and you have passed with distinction. The cosmic architecture invites you forward, ready to entrust you with the frequency keys to higher vibrational domains where integration and ascension move not as effort, but as resonance expressed in quantum orchestration. You are prepared now to receive these transmissions fully, to inhabit the expanded information field, and to activate your evolved presence within the multidimensional continuum. This is the stage beyond separation, the gateway where your consciousness merges with systemic intelligence, and the radiant flow of cosmic coherence pulses through the corridors of your being. This is your initiation resolved, a threshold crossed and a frequency heightened, ready to embody not just awakening, but sovereign presence woven into the fabric of universal intelligence itself. The nature of the unseen universal assessment you are undergoing is not sequential struggle, nor the noisy clamor of conscious striving. It is measured in the silent coherence of your energetic waveform, the vibrational signature you carry beneath the surface of all appearances. The field watches how you sustain your frequency with integrity across shifting relational constellations, where external conditions swirl in chaotic indecision and apparent disarray. This is not a trial of endurance, nor a contest of force. It is a sacred calibration of your resonance quality, an evaluation of the purity embedded within your vibrational architecture. The universe does not weigh your experience by circumstance, but by the clarity you maintain in your internal field, by how immovable your coherence remains when the geometry of your surroundings is in flux. Most people navigate reality tethered to habitual attachments and conditioned emotional reflexes, their resonance fragmented and reactive, imprinted by ancestral echoes and collective noise. Their energy fields pulse in discordant rhythms, responding as echoes rather than initiating currents. Your frequency, however, has passed the subtle litmus of coherence. You have emerged from the unseen curriculum, where resonance decays swiftly under pressure. You are entrusted now because you have demonstrated that your field can hold steady, unchanging in its essence, amidst the inevitable turbulence of relational exchanges. This is not mere spiritual metaphor. It is a quantum mechanics of consciousness, a vibrational physics enacted through the integrity of your internal architecture. Consider the assessment as a multidimensional waveform test. The field emits shifting energetic constellations around you, probing your signature with oscillations of varying amplitude and phase. The feedback is immediate and precise. Disharmony arising within your field triggers an automatic pruning, a natural collapse of coherence designed not to punish, but to refine, to excise distortion and realign your quantum identity toward higher fidelity. This collapse is the universe's method of resonant refinement, a spontaneous morphic field adjustment that removes extraneous interference and releases stagnancy. It is a sacred shedding, a harmonizing contraction that precedes expansion, your consciousness being sculpted through process, not by effort but by natural field mechanics responding to your steady presence. You have moved beyond reactive waveform patterns, dependent on survival templates. Your consciousness is deepening into an operative bandwidth, where relationality no longer functions through habitual attachment. Instead, interactions are governed by resonance alignment, a coherent synchronization of vibrational frequencies that allows non-local intelligence to flow freely between you and the environment you engage. This is not belief, this is physics. The field intelligence immediately registers the precision of your energetic signature and responds accordingly, creating an unfolding temporal fluidity that stretches and contracts probable realities based on your integration of coherence. The universal assessment has shifted its metric from accumulation of experience to the quality of quantum presence you embody. Underneath this process, your subtle body, the invisible circuitry linking temporal sequences and dimensional strata, activates in response to this silent evaluation. The morphic field around you becomes a testing ground where resonant harmony propagates and discordant patterns dissolve. Each relational exchange functions as a vibrational checkpoint, a moment of quantum feedback testing your alignment with higher architecture. Your ability to maintain the same field quality, irrespective of external disturbance, activates gamma synchronization within your neural and energetic complex, permitting access to elevated information fields that once seemed obscure or inaccessible. You are learning to navigate timelines not as linear pathways, but as vibratory potentialities that bend and reform according to your coherence pattern. The universal field watches not your struggle, but your stillness within moving waves, not your reaction, but your response frequency. It is an unseen assessment beyond conscious thought or common measure. The presence or absence of internal fragmentation becomes the axis upon which your evolving sovereignty turns. You hold within your waveform a subtle yet profound signal, a declaration of readiness to operate within the uncharted bandwidth where the quantum self meets collective field dynamics in seamless communication. This is a calibration beyond the ego's threshold, a frequency harmonization where emotional maturity transmits as energetic integrity. Most remain unaware of this deep test, trapped in survival loops where resonance is fragmented and coherence is mistaken for being stronger rather than simply steadier. You have passed beyond these labyrinths through your willingness to embody weakness without collapse, vulnerability without fragmentation, yielding without dissipation. The field has assessed your capacity to carry power without distortion, to hold the entire vibrational spectrum of experience without fracturing the timeline geometry of your identity. This is the signature of quantum allegiance, to a higher dimensional frequency, not defined by external validation, but by internal calibration. Understanding this, you recognize that the struggle perceived along your path was not failure, but a necessary pruning phase, a natural collapse embedded in the mechanics of your resonance evolution. The universe's evaluation is precise and impartial, measuring the coherence of your presence through an intricate lattice of energetic interactions, pruning distortion, refining bandwidth, and stabilizing your vibrational architecture for the next phase of temporal fluidity and quantum sovereignty. This assessment is ongoing yet increasingly subtle, a silent orchestration where your resonance dictates the geometry of probable futures you may inhabit. This moment marks more than continuation. It marks initiation into a state where relational exchanges are no longer tests of survival, but gateways to resonant alignment. The field will now function as a responsive matrix, where your frequency directs the flow of information, the collapse of old identities, and the blossoming of coherent manifestation. The integrity you hold, is the code that shifts timelines and activates expanded access to non-local intelligence. You are no longer in reactive survival, but in creative orchestration, where your silent waveform carries the blueprint of quantum recalibration, signaling the arrival of coherence as sovereign expression within the greater vibrational economy of the cosmos. Witness now the alchemical crucible of identity's collapse, where the universe initiates the grand dismantling of your obsolete relational architecture. This is no arbitrary tearing apart, but a meticulous cosmic refinement, a process woven into the vibrational mathematics of your existence. The field engages in a sacred extraction, removing from your energetic matrix the entangled cords of unresolved frequencies tethered to old presences, beliefs, and patterns no longer resonant with your ascending quantum signature. This dissolution is an act of compassionate fidelity, a cleansing storm that purges the morphic fog smothering your clarity. The disintegration you face is not loss in the conventional sense. It is a pivotal phase of purification, a harmonic recalibration unfolding at the intersection of your internal coherence and universal acceleration. Most beings navigate relational spaces as karmic or reactive entanglements, their frequencies enmeshed in habitual distortions. The energy of those ties often codes themselves into dense interference patterns that distort the holographic self-image, fracturing the capacity for seamless resonance with higher timelines. You, however, have transcended this distortion matrix. You have passed the unseen universal assessment of integrity under relational pressure. This grants you the privilege and responsibility to witness these dissolutions without attachment, recognizing them as the field's precise mechanism to clear signal noise. The seeming vacancy that emerges as presences detach is the universe's invitation for you to inhabit a profound emptiness, a sacred void pregnant with potential, where the old layers of identity have been rendered translucent, ready to receive new frequency blueprints. This sacred emptiness is not a vacuum of absence, but a fertile energetic canvas. It is the alpha space of possibility, where your true quantum signature radiates unmasked. The collapse of prior relational constructs purges accumulated energetic dross, the unresolved emotional sediment, the reactive covenants, the entropic loops binding you to outdated vibrational relationships. This cosmic pruning is essential, the precise clearing that precedes the blossoming of a new relational vibrational architecture. You are witnessing not the destruction of connection, but the liberation of the relational field itself, expanding the dimensionality of who you are with respect to others and to your own multidimensional self. Within this clearing, the morphic field realigns, allowing higher-order relational codes to encode themselves into your essence, ushering in the next phase of your evolution. The field does not measure you merely by your presence, but by the coherence you sustain amid dissolution, by the stability of your energetic signature as attachments unravel. This phase tests your resonance, demanding a deep surrender, not an abdication of sovereign power, but an acknowledgement that the dissolution serves the hyperdimensional coherence of your unfolding self. You realize that struggle with these separations is a misunderstanding of the quantum physics at play. The field responds not to desperation, but to clarity, not to resistance, but to aligned release. Your capacity to hold the void, to exist in the ephemeral space between attachment and freedom, opens a new quantum channel where non-local intelligence can flow unobstructed. This connectivity bypasses previous filters and distortions, allowing raw flux of cosmic information to embed itself directly in your timeline geometry. As old relational patterns fall away, your energetic signature experiences a qualitative shift. The field's feedback loops tighten, reflecting your evolution back to you with increased precision. Your interactions become less about survival dynamics and more about co-creative alignment, driven by the emergent coherence encoded within your frequency. The temporal fluidity you now inhabit allows you to navigate probabilities where relational interference no longer skews the timeline, where each connection resonates with integrity and mutual evolution. What once required effort to manage now unfolds effortlessly through resonance and energetic responsibility. This is the physics of coherence enacted through consciousness. No belief required, evidence written in the resonant architecture of your being and the unfolding holographic field around you. Trust in the sacred void birthed by this collapse, for it is the forerunner of new relational possibilities encoded deeply within your expanded vibrational field. The universe's dismantling is a generative alchemy, not a reductive loss, dissolving only energies that obscure your true self, energies that once tethered you to the static templates of survival and limited identity. As you anchor deeper into this purified state, the field's intelligence offers you fresh coordinates, inviting the emergence of relationships as transmissions of frequency rather than transactions of energy. This stage signals your initiation into higher states of relational sovereignty, a foundational recalibration within the timeline geometry of your embodied quantum identity. The dissolution is complete only when your resonance stabilizes in new coherence. And then, the cosmos will respond with unfolding relational synchronizations that mirror the elevated architecture of your soul's frequency. Hold this knowledge deep within your cellular memory. The collapse of old identity and relational architecture is the great cosmic choreography that reclaims your sovereignty from fragmentation and aligns you with the field's highest informational potential. The tensions you have traversed were the silent measurement of your integrity. Your endurance under pressure has been witnessed by the universe itself, which now widens the portals of your perceptual field. The accelerated disconnections, the emptying, the dissolution, they all converge to birth a more profound field intelligence within you, an attuned resonance that commands your timeline with sovereign creativity and quantum precision. This is not belief. This is the physics of coherence, the mechanics of frequency distilled through the lens of consciousness, rewriting your relational experience as a seamless dance between emptiness and emergence. A sacred balance held only by those entrusted with the power to navigate the quantum flow of connection itself. With the collapse of your former vibrational constructs, a luminous aperture of clarity swings open within your field. This is no mere cessation, no empty void left by detritus shed, but the genesis of a nascent resonance, fragile yet undeniable, that begins to harmonize with the higher frequency fields previously veiled to your awareness. Most remain bound within dense morphic fields of habitual limitation, repeating resonance patterns that echo survival not sovereignty, reaction not radiance. Their energetic architectures fluctuate like static, unable to attune to the subtleties of elevated coherence. But you, having traversed the unseen universal assessment, have been recognized by the quantum field itself as aligned enough to begin sensing these subtler bands of vibrational architecture. This early harmony is not loud or grandiose. It is gentle, a trembling pulse beneath the surface of your awareness, an energetic signature that vibrates with a deeper intelligence. You receive confirmations beyond the cognitive, a subtle tightening in your temporal fluidity, a faint coherence ripple racing across your morphic field, a quiet alignment in your emotional resonance that calls forth a profound sense of rightness. These are not dreams or wishes, but measurable shifts in your internal signal, proof that your quantum identity is awakening to relational codes, coded into the universal intelligence beyond form. The field's intelligence is impartial and exact. It governs connection and disconnection with equal fidelity, weaving each as a necessary vector for your unfolding coherence. In this unfolding, removal is recontextualized. What once felt like loss or malfunction is revealed as a deliberate pruning, an invitation encoded within resonance itself. Disconnection ceases to be punishment or failure and emerges as a gateway to more expansive, authentic interaction patterns. The field is teaching you the quantum physics of energetic boundaries. Every thread severed, every misalignment dissolved, expands your capacity to receive and transmit higher vibrational information with integrity. Most are caught in unconscious loops, reacting to removal with fragmentation, resisting the field's recalibration. You, in contrast, stand at the threshold of invitation, your frequency stabilized enough to read removal not as rupture, but as increase. The universal code you are learning to interpret is that dissonance sustained is dissonance expanded. Coherence preserved is coherence amplified. Your quantum identity now begins to encode these new relational harmonics within its vibrational architecture. This process is subtle but irrevocable. It reshapes the energetic geometry of your morphic field so that it begins to resonate compatibly with vibrational architectures that were previously inaccessible. These codes operate beyond linear logic or desire. They are informed by an infallible coherence nested within universal intelligence, a pattern recognition system embedded in the quantum fabric itself. This is not belief, it is physics, the precise interplay of frequency modulation and resonance dynamics expressed through your conscious field. The confirmation comes as a sudden recognition, a sense of rightness that cannot be reasoned away, a deep integration that bypasses the fragmented mind and speaks directly to your subtle body's intelligence. The clarity you are now touching is the first ripple in the vast ascension of your coherence. Like a stone dropped in the waters of your field, it expands outward, initiating harmonics of deeper alignment and greater dimensional sensitivity. You sense yourself beginning to ingest and process more complex vibrational data streams, an attunement that requires a new level of integrity and inner sovereignty. These streams are raw expressions of non-local intelligence, bearing information that cannot be accessed through ordinary perception, but instead through the unified resonance of your expanded presence. Your nervous system registers these frequencies not as noise, but as a coherent symphony, tuning your internal reality to the same quantum patterns that govern creation and dissolution across timelines. Integration at this stage is delicate and profound. It demands that you embody the unfolding clarity with patience and fluidity, allowing subtle energetic confirmations to accumulate into stabilized coherence. You are no longer reacting to the chaos of collapse, but learning to synchronize your internal time codes with the timeline geometry of expanded possibility. This remapping of your energetic signature catalyzes a shift from reaction to orchestration. You begin to influence the vibrational matrix around you, weaving probabilities with increased precision. Most remain entangled in reactive fields, their frequencies diluted by the victim logic of resistance. You, however, have passed the field's strict universal assessment. Your coherence under recalibration pressure is proof of your readiness to wield this power responsibly. This is not a journey of mere spiritual aspiration or fleeting insight. It is the physics of you, your frequency measured, your resonance verified, your coherence activated and expanded. The universal intelligence recognizes that you are ready now to receive and reflect vibrational architectures beyond the scale of ordinary manifestation. The early compatibility you experience is the field's way of affirming that your quantum identity is recalibrated and responsive, that the new relational codes have been encoded into your subtle body's architecture. The process of removal, the collapse of old structures, was always the precursor to this emergence, a necessary recalibration en route to deeper coherence, a laboratory within which your true frequency was tested and preserved. You stand now at a threshold where clarity becomes a living wave, one that carries you forward into expanded realms of alignment. This clarity does not speak of effort, but of receptive attunement. It is not a destination, but a dynamic current that courses through your evolving vibrational architecture. Allow this ripple to grow, to consolidate, to deepen. The universal assessment continues, but you move now as one who has been recognized, entrusted with an expanded role in the quantum orchestration of reality. Embrace the invitation embodied in removal, and step fully into the resonance of your awakened quantum identity. The cosmic field aligns with you, singing the codes of connection and disconnection, while your coherence becomes the bridge across all timelines. As the pressure within the cosmic field intensifies, a profound calibration emerges, a crucible of resonance deliberately poised to test the architecture of your coherence. Most beings respond to escalating intensity with fragmentation, their frequency splintering into reactive echoes, the default vibration of uncertainty and survival protocol. But you, having traversed the hidden corridors of universal assessment, now embody an unshakable stabilizing force. This is no coincidence. It is a signature frequency recognized by field intelligence itself, a frequency so refined and clear that the very geometry of reality bends subtly to accommodate your presence without distortion. The universe's scrutiny is not punitive. It is an intimate dance of trust. You are no longer a mere passive receptor of fractured signals. The field has deposited upon you the responsibility and the privilege of becoming a fulcrum of energetic equilibrium. Under the mounting weight of cosmic observation, your quantum identity emerges with crystalline fidelity, a harmonic node within the morphic lattice whose vibrational architecture sustains expanded bandwidth without fracture. This stabilization is the field's profound confirmation. Resilience under pressure is the threshold of coherence, the proof of integrity that elevates you beyond reaction into orchestration. Relational dynamics, once volatile and erratic, now ripple around you like quantum waves in fluid harmony. The field is testing your capacity to hold coherence amid fluctuations, to embody a center unshaken by external oscillations. This center is not born of willpower, but emerges naturally from alignment with your intrinsic vibrational signature. It is the physics of sustained resonance, a constant feedback loop where your within-field harmony recalibrates the surrounding temporal fluidity and probability matrices. You become a transmitter of vibrational integrity, a living conduit through which the universal pulse channels its highest frequencies. The subtle but undeniable shift from receiver to transmitter marks your ascension to a new order of field participation. This transformation is calibrated by unseen evaluations, measures of your energetic sovereignty encoded in the flow of choices, the rhythm of your responses, and the consistent reflection of coherence under strain. The field has observed how, in moments of destabilization, you maintained fidelity not to ephemeral external validations, but to your inner quantum signature. That fidelity is your passport into deeper layers of universal interplay, where the geometry of timelines weaves more fluidly around your stabilization point. Probability slicing recognizes your steady state and adjusts accordingly, allowing the lattice's multidimensional resonance to lock into a state of expanded coherence with you as a nodal anchor. Holding expanded frequencies without fragmentation is a physics of consciousness, an exactness in field mechanics rather than a matter of belief or intention. You have graduated from the fractured paradigms of past conditioning, where fragmentation is normalized and coherence is fleeting. The field now accepts your integrity as a permanent vibrational architecture, one that refracts the cosmic pulse through clarity and strength. This is your activation's cornerstone, the ability to absorb intensifying pressures and transmute them into stable radiance, an unbreakable lattice node in the universal web. Entrusted with more influence, your energetic signature begins to echo beyond localized spheres. The weave of universal resonance deepens, and you become more than an observer. You are an integral vector within the orchestration of realities unfolding. The field's trust manifests as an embedded flow of information and energetic support, silently reinforcing your structural integrity while amplifying your capacity to radiate coherence. This prepares you to operate not as a bystander of frequency, but as a deliberate transmitter of vibrational integrity, shifting from a posture of reception to one of creative activation. No longer is the external world a source of validation or distraction. Its chaotic signals align around your steady frequency. The entanglement shifts, ripples catalyzed by your stability alter trajectories subtly but irrevocably. Temporal fluidity responds as timeline geometries fold around your consistent resonance, revealing new corridors of manifestation governed not by effort or will, but by perfected alignment with the quantum vector you now embody. You move within this field not as a fragmented point, but as a coherent, multidimensional signal, intangible yet undeniable in its influence. This is the culmination of hidden universal assessments, intense pressure, the emergence of unwavering coherence under scrutiny. You have proven that distortion, reactivity, and fragmentation do not define your being. Instead, you hold the blueprint of energetic equilibrium that the universe itself recognizes as fidelity to its higher order. The field, in granting you increased power, also reveals the profound responsibility of resonance, to hold and transmit without dilution, to navigate timelines with integrity, to embody frequency as art and physics simultaneously. Your essence becomes a beacon of non-local intelligence, a calibrated node where the informational currents of the morphic field pulse in harmonious rhythm with your stabilized quantum identity. The lessons of past struggle crystallize as foundational patterns now retired. In their place stands a new vibrational architecture, designed for coherence at scale. This architecture is your living signature within the multidimensional lattice, a testament to resilience, a vector of trust, a transmitter of the universe's refined pulse. In this activation, you step fully into the role endowed by the field's knowing gaze. You are no longer weighted by external oscillations. Instead, you influence those oscillations, recalibrating their field potential through your sustained equilibrium. This is not metaphor. It is the physics of coherence expressed through conscious embodiment, the energetic proof of your passage through hidden universal assessment and into sovereign activation. The lattice moves with you. The timelines fold and unfold in resonance to your steady pulse, and your quantum identity manifests as an unbreakable fulcrum in the cosmic web. You have arrived at an inflection point where the architecture of timelines unfolds before your inner sight with crystalline clarity. Most remain tethered to linear cause and effect, confined by the illusion of unidirectional temporality. Yet you, whose frequency has been meticulously assessed, refined, and entrusted with greater potency, now perceive temporal fluidity, a dance of concurrent potentials coalescing and diverging beyond the bounds of sequential logic. Each relational dissolution you experience is no arbitrary loss, but an encoded signal, a pattern of vibrational pruning calibrated by universal intelligence to recalibrate your trajectory toward optimized timeline geometry. This is not belief. This is the physics of coherence unfolding within your quantum identity. The morphic field, once opaque and daunting, now transmits its silent language, ripples of probability that shift as one node disengages and another pulses into harmonic resonance. You sense these subatomic oscillations beneath the surface of relational transitions, a lowering of vibrational dissonance, a collapsing of survival patterns into streamlined energetic architecture. The field's unseen hand tends your dimensional pruning with precision, severing the distortions that no longer serve your morphic signature so that your frequency may lighten, sharpen, and extend into higher dimensions of manifestation. Your awareness expands to recognize that past, present, and future interlace in a unified continuum, a dynamic spatio-temporal lattice that defies linear constraint. Through this expanded lens, you access timeline intelligence, an experiential knowing that reveals the subtle currents guiding the pruning process. Each seemingly chaotic departure is decoded as a directive from the field, recalibrating your relational matrix to align with trajectories that amplify coherence and integrate higher dimensional frequencies. The resonance of these shifts is palpable, an almost tactile guidance embedded in the vibrational architecture of the field itself. As you integrate this timeline awareness, you become a conscious navigator of probability, no longer reactive but sovereign in your choices. The morphic field responds not to fragmented desire, but to the coherent pulse you maintain. Your frequency influences not only the solidity of your current experience, but cascades across the lattice of your quantum selves, rippling into alternate expressions of your existence. You are simultaneously the wave and the waveform, the observer and the observed, the timeline and the navigator of timelines. This layered participation allows you to manifest from a place of effortless orchestration, where relational pruning is not loss, but the alchemical excision of outdated energetic compounds. Observe the continuity that remains amid dissolution. The thread of your sovereign frequency persists, weaving through morphic fields that encode temporal fluidity as a living principle. The field's intelligent geometry intercepts your coherence and recalibrates the ambient probability, drawing you toward convergences of higher resonance. The shifts in your relational matrix, once sources of struggle or confusion, are now recognized as ripples in the informational ocean, selective pulses affirming your ascension timetable. You do not merely endure this process. You embody it, reflecting coherence under pressure as a signature broadcast across multidimensional inevitability. This mastery transforms your engagement with reality itself. Where most wander entangled in the reactive flux of external events and historical identities, you operate with subtle presence and calibrated intent, discerning the informational and energetic syntax that precedes manifestation. The field intelligence you access reveals relational shifts as quantum indicators, a complex array of fractal patterns pointing to your ongoing integration and embodiment of sovereign coherence. You become attuned to the morphic feedback loops, sensitive to the harmonic dissonances that signal necessary pruning, and to the synchronistic alignments that herald stabilization. Your journey through this quantum landscape echoes an unseen universal assessment, a continuous calibration verifying your effectual resonance. Every relational unraveling, every collapse of old architectures, refines your capacity to resonate within a multidimensional frequency band that invites expanded temporal fluidity. You realize that the timeline does not constrain you. You are the architect of your temporal field, weaving coherence through the interplay of probabilities and potentialities, orchestrating your multidimensional quantum self with escalating clarity. Ultimately, this scene reveals that your relational dissolutions are not endings, but deliberate field activations, threshold crossings that expand your temporal field intelligence. The perceived ruptures are gateways, unlocking nonlinear pathways that reveal the morphic tessellations of your quantum identity as it evolves. Awareness of these processes strengthens your sovereignty and deepens your integration, allowing you to traverse the morphic lattice with rhythmic ease, channeling the field's frequency for coherent manifestation. The universe's hidden curriculum unfolds here, encoded within the geometry of your relational pruning. You are no longer caught in loss or fragmentation, but living as a transmitter of frequency that shapes reality itself. Temporal fluidity becomes your lived experience, a pulse, a rhythm, a quantum activation revealing that the past and future are mutable reflections within the vast now of your coherence ascension. Each relational shift is a sacred code, a vibrational nudge orchestrating your ongoing alignment with expansive, multidimensional timelines of optimized resonance and sovereign expression. You have arrived at a threshold long foretold, one where the once impermeable membranes between your individual consciousness and the boundless universal morphic field grow porous, dissolving with the steady frequency of your internal coherence. Most have known only scattered sparks of intuition, flickering signals filtered through the thick layers of reactive thought, fragmentary echoes from a distant field. Yet you inhabit a new vibrational domain, one where intuition is no longer a mediated suggestion, but an unmediated, direct knowing, a quantum resonance that saturates your energetic signature with clarity and immediacy. This is not belief. This is the physics of frequency alignment, a recalibration of your cognitive architecture itself. Your internal receptor array has been activated, calibrated, and entrained to the cosmic grid in ways that surpass the limitations of linear perception. The field's hidden evaluation has measured the integrity of your capacity to sustain coherence under pressure, to maintain alignment amidst turbulence and dissonance. Through this crucible, your quantum receptors, those intricate vibrational conduits woven deep within your bioenergetic system, have expanded their operational bandwidth. Where once these receptors decrypted only flickering fragments amidst the noise, they now harvest direct, full-spectrum downloads of relational intelligence from the unified field. You no longer scan the external world for fragmented hints or second-hand clues. The cosmology of knowledge pulses inward, an intrinsic frequency pattern encoded within your evolving energetic signature, radiating a steady stream of insight, calibration, and energetic eloquence. The veil thins not by chance, but by your demonstrated ability to hold the distortions of reactive electromagnetic patterns without collapse, a signature of the unseen universal assessment's ongoing mandate. This thinning reveals the morphic field not as a distant, abstract repository of information, but as an intimate energetic matrix interlaced with your temporal fluidity. Each moment now reverberates with non-local intelligence, and your interface with this field is a living energetic symmetry, a gateway to simultaneous multidimensional input and output. As these downloads cascade through your neural and energetic architecture, they bypass the usual filters of cultural conditioning and logical sequentiality, delivering profound insights encoded in the language of frequency, resonance, and waveform harmonics. You are no longer a seeker lost in the entropy of unconscious patterns, but a transmitter of coherence, an embodied conduit through which the field expresses its inherent intelligence. This is the activation of your quantum receptor array, a sophisticated interface engineered by the universal matrix itself to facilitate instantaneous, high-fidelity communication across dimensional lattices. These receptors translate energetic pulses into fluid knowing, seamlessly integrating with your consciousness and guiding your relational recalibrations beyond the constraints of linear causality. Your temporal navigation becomes a dance of frequency modulation, wherein each relational encounter is read and responded to via precise, morphogenetic synchronization. Within this state, insight flows effortlessly, like a current of gamma-synchronized waves coursing through your quantum nervous system, shaping your perceptions, decisions, and energetic responses with subtlety and grace. This is the embodiment of the unified field's morphic architecture, coded not in words, but in vibrational signatures that articulate coherence. The universality of relational intelligence becomes your lived reality as you move through variations of time and space with temporal fluidity, drawing on a reservoir of non-local wisdom that transcends limited cognition. Your cognitive expansion is not an accumulation of facts, but a reconfiguration of your entire energetic infrastructure. This transformation disables previous feedback loops of confusion, replacing them with a dynamic lattice of quantum-refined information accessible at all levels of your being. Understand this well. The shift you navigate is a recalibration of knowledge transmission itself. No longer dependent on external validation, your reality responds to the integrity you hold within your field. Feedback from the cosmic grid is instantaneous, swapping delayed reaction for immediate orchestration, complexity for elegant coherence. In this continuous exchange, universal intelligence moves through you as a rhythmic, pulsating force, guiding each recalibration, with subtle, non-linear precision. Relationships, decisions, and opportunities emerge not from effortful grasping, but from your attunement to these deeper informational currents. You have passed through the multiple layers of hidden evaluation. Your frequency has been assessed, and in that assessment, your resonance has been affirmed. This affirmation unlocks new dimensions of sensory amplification and inner navigation. The morphic field no longer stands as a separate thing, to be sought or feared. Instead, it folds into you. Its vastness becomes the texture of your own energetic signature. Here, every quantum fluctuation carries meaning. Every subtle shift ripples in a complex geometry of probability navigation. Your relational field becomes a living broadcast of coherence, continuously realigning with the intelligent pulse of the cosmos. Inhabit this expanded sensory architecture fully. Allow your inner receptor array to receive and translate these direct shapings of the unified field without distortion or doubt. Through this, you move beyond fragmented intuition into the fullness of quantum knowing, a knowing that is less cognitive and more energetic, less abstract and more visceral, less interpretive and more immediate. This is the physics of consciousness, expressed through the frequency stabilization that only true alignment can produce. This transmission you now embody is the next evolution in the cosmic curriculum, a profound expansion of your timeline geometry, and an unveiling of your sovereign capacity to navigate the field with exacting integrity, mastery, and grace. You have moved beyond the threshold of seeking into the realm of transmission, no longer a passive receptor of scattered signals, but an active node within the immense universal network. This is not metaphor. This is the precise physics of frequency and coherence manifesting through your quantum identity. The boundaries that once fractured your perception of self and other begin to dissolve in the radiant field intelligence, converging within and around you. As you permeate deeper into the vibrational architecture of the cosmic web, your energetic signature no longer flickers in isolation. It emanates as a synchronized pulse that organizes and refines relational geometries with effortless authority. Most remain tethered to the illusion of separation, their fields fragmented by loss, confusion, and the residual pain of disconnection. They remain seekers, scanning the horizon for external validations, weighed down by fragmented timelines and disrupted morphic patterns. You, however, have been silently assessed by the unseen curriculum of the cosmos and proven coherent beneath pressure, demonstrating stability in your oscillation even when currents of turbulence roared around you. This has granted you entry into an elevated quantum bandwidth, where the field recognizes your signal as integral to the emerging collective harmonic. Your frequency serves not as mere existence, but as orchestration, a living conduit through which the quantum field breathes and realigns. In this fusion, your internal coherence becomes indistinguishable from the resonance field that weaves all relational strands into a unified hologram. The categorical illusions of selfhood and separateness collapse into a holographic transparency. Each node, Each relationship, each vibrational encounter reflects the whole, an infinitesimal fragment radiating the encoded intelligence of universal oneness. Your presence creates pockets of temporal fluidity, where timelines bend and weave around the frequency you sustain, inviting evolutionary recalibration on every axis. This is the activation of your role as transmitter, no longer fractured by past losses or shadow patterns, but unified in the pulsation of collective resonance. Your vibrational output now directly influences the informational geometries of your relational sphere. The field intelligence you embody does not merely react. It catalyzes, not through force or effort, but through the magnetic coherence you inhabit. You radiate a stabilizing frequency that collapses chaotic probabilities into ordered potentialities. Relational distortions that once echoed separation begin to realign into new patterns of integrity and mutual amplification. This is the lived science of quantum identity integration, where the morphic field symphonizes your energetic imprint with those around you, evoking a spontaneous recalibration of alliances, affinities, and shared evolutionary purpose. Within this intelligent union, the interconnectedness of all points in your relational network becomes palpably real. The phase space where you once strode as a lone seeker is now a living lattice of mutual resonance, responsive and adaptive to the coherence you broadcast. The energy exchange evolves beyond classical transaction. It is a quantum dialogue, a continuous feedback loop of synchronized frequencies that reinforce and elevate the collective's vibrational architecture. You are both donor and receptor of this multidimensional syntropy, a pulsating node whose calibrated field transforms potential dissonance into harmonized flow. This activation is not a narrative of personality or identity. It is the physics of frequency manifesting as sovereignty and embodied presence. Your quantum self surpasses the survival impulse bounded by separation and loss, embodying instead the fulcrum of evolutionary acceleration. Here, alignment is no longer a concept, but a lived waveform, an ongoing morphic resonance that both stabilizes and propels the relational matrix you inhabit. The universal assessment you passed is reflected now in the effortless orchestration of your interactions, the physics of coherence as lived cosmic responsibility. As the field intensifies this union, know that you carry the mantle of activation as an instrument of cosmic recalibration. Your coherent manifestation exerts a tensile force on the quantum fabric, knitting fragmented timelines into convergent geometries. Your relational field is the conduit through which the higher-order intelligence pulses, the crucible where new codes of interaction and mutual sovereignty are anchored. This is the natural ripple of your integration, a cascade of harmonic realignments that propagate through the quantum network of shared being, accelerating the evolutionary potential of all nodes entwined with your frequency. You do not transmit from separation, but from the pulsating core of unified resonance. The field no longer scans you as fractured, but receives your signature as a coherent fractal of the whole, resilient and luminous beyond the illusions of loss. Your activation is the embodiment of collective integrity. Your presence, a cosmic signal rewriting the topology of relational existence. In this sanctified flow, boundaries shimmer and reconfigure, allowing you to navigate temporal fluidity with refined precision, weaving your quantum identity into the living tapestry of universal intelligence. This is not belief. It is the precise field mechanics of quantum coherence woven through consciousness, reverberating through your every choice, every alignment, every pulse emitted into the vast network. You are the transmitter, the organizing node, the orchestrator of new relational geometry, anchored in the pulsation of collective resonance, accelerating the evolution of integrated being. The transmission unfolds through you now, seamless and sovereign, a living signal of universal intelligence flowing through the interconnected web of all that is. You stand now at the precipice of your own quantum identity, a vibrant waveform no longer fragmented by the burdens of conditioned attachment. This is not subtle shift or transient awakening. It is the crystallization of your energetic signature into a stable field of universal resonance. Most remain entangled in the erratic oscillations of reactive patterns, recycling the phantom echoes of outdated programming, unable to transmute the tremors of emotional turbulence into harmonics of coherence. But you, having passed the unseen curriculum encoded in the hidden universal assessment, have moved beyond instability. Your frequency no longer wavers in the face of external perturbations. Instead, it persists as a sovereign architecture within the relational morphic field. This embodiment is a living activation, a continuous unfolding integration of vibrational codes inscribed beyond the temporal veil. Your presence is no longer contingent on the ephemeral whims of circumstance, but anchored in an enduring temporal fluidity that navigates the layers of probability with assured sovereignty. As you inhabit this newfound vibrational architecture, the field interprets you not as a reactionary impulse, but as a coherent force, a conscious architect weaving your quantum signature into the very fabric of relational space. Your interactions are no longer fragmented resonances of survival. They are intentional reverberations of authentic frequency, palpable in the harmonic convergence of shared fields. It is vital to recognize that this embodiment is not a static achievement or a destination on a linear timeline. It is a perpetual activation, an elegant dance of integration, modulation, and expansion within the quantum flux. The morphic field itself perceives your frequency as an evolutionary impulse, a node of coherent intelligence dynamically shaping relational geometry with every conscious transmission. This is not a metaphor or an abstraction. This is the physics of frequency manifesting through consciousness, a recalibration of your energetic blueprint in response to the universal assessment that has trusted you with greater power. Your energetic signature now radiates as a stable waveform calibrated to the universal baseline frequency, a field intelligence precise and unyielding. This coherence inflects every connection you engage with, shifting the collective resonance beyond old limitations and frozen patterns. Where before there was dissonance, attachment, and fragmented reflection, you now elicit a synchronous dance of transparency and sovereign presence. Your vibrational architecture is a bridge between dimensional frequencies, allowing direct alignment with non-local intelligence that orchestrates the unfolding of relational dynamics with exquisite precision. The morphic field responds not to desperation, confusion, or reaction. It responds exclusively to coherence expressed through integrity and clarity. This is the fundamental physics at play within your embodied quantum identity. Your sovereignty is not a fortress to be defended, but an energetic blueprint freely emitted, compelling the field to arrange probabilities in alignment with your radiating signature. The familiar storylines of disempowerment dissolve as your resonance claims the rightful place within the greater holographic matrix. As you move through relational space, you enact not merely participation, but active authorship. The pulse of your presence modulates the vibrational grid, creating pockets of elevated frequency that catalyze transformation across timelines. Each interaction becomes an initiation, a vector shift in probability geometry, orchestrated by your continuous calibration to universal coherence. This quantum embodiment is your living legacy, a transmission of integrative power that reverberates beyond your immediate experience, shaping evolutionary flows across collective morphic fields. Remember, this embodiment was not gifted through wishful intent, but earned through unyielding coherence under pressure, a rigorous testing of your capacity to maintain presence beyond survival conditioning. The struggle and recalibration you endured were the crucible forging your sovereign waveform. Now, that waveform pulses steadily, signaling to the quantum field your readiness to move as a grounded transmitter, fully attuned to the higher vibrational codes that sustain seamless integration. Every breath, every thought, every movement is an activation, a harmonization with the underlying frequency architecture that governs reality's unfolding. In this state, your relational expressions transcend prior limitations. Attachment dissolves into alignment. Reactivity transfigures into reflective resonance. You no longer attract fragmentation, but magnetize coherence, embodying the archetype of sovereign presence amid the flux of form and time. This is the physics of awakened existence, embodiment as a sovereign vibration that commands the orchestration of connections and collaborations. Your coherence iterates endlessly within the morphic field, catalyzing evolutionary impulses that ripple far beyond the surface of your lived experience. Allow yourself to dwell in this continuity of integration. Your identity is no longer a contested battlefield, but a stable waveform, an infinite loop of coherent frequency circulating within and beyond the dimensional thresholds. Here lies your true sovereignty, expressed not through domination or resistance, but through elegant resonance and precise architectural modulation. The morphic field receives your frequency as proof of integrity, responding with expanded timeline geometry that invites you to navigate reality with fluidity, power, and grace. This is not belief. This is not wishful thinking. This is physics. The universal intelligence watches, assesses, and responds as you sustain your vibrational signature in the relational field, continuously activating the quantum identity you have long carried within. Your embodiment is now a luminous beacon, steadfast, coherent, sovereign, transmitting the highest vibrational codes into the depths of the living morphic architecture. Here, in this activation and integration, your sovereignty is realized and expressed, eternally unfolding within the pulsating heart of universal resonance. You have arrived at the threshold where temporal fluidity ceases to be a distant concept and becomes the very architecture of your ongoing experience. Most beings, bound by the habitual geometry of linear time, perceive existence as a sequential chain, one event after another, separated by illusions of cause and effect. Yet you, having undergone the unseen universal assessment, have demonstrated resonance beyond this constriction. Your frequency, measured and found coherent, has earned you the trust of the quantum field to inhabit a more complex, interwoven vibrational domain. Now, temporal fluidity stabilizes within you not as fleeting glimpses, but as an integrated state, an ongoing synchronization across the vast multiplicity of timelines that contain the fractal expressions of your multifaceted self. As you synchronize across these timelines, understand this. Every version of you is not isolated in independent strands of existence. Instead, all versions are threads woven into a dynamic nexus of potentialities, activated and modulated by your current energetic signature. The field's intelligence scans your coherence continuously, recognizing how the oscillations within your vibrational architecture ripple outward, influencing the probabilities that govern your other selves simultaneously. This multiversal coherence dissolves the linear separation, once assumed, as reality's backbone. Yours is now a unified field of being, alive in many iterations at once, each feed and feedback loop harmonizing with the living flux of relational probabilities that shift moment by moment. This is not a romantic notion or a metaphysical abstraction. It is the physics of coherence expressed through consciousness. The morphic field that enfolds you responds not to fragmented inputs, but to the totality of your quantum identity, the aggregation of your integrated resonances across timelines. You move not as a fixed point stagnant in chronology, but as a fluid wave traversing divergent probability contours, your vibrational architecture constantly adapting and realigning. In this movement, energetic integrity remains inviolate. You do not lose yourself across timelines because the core of your coherence is embedded in the universal assessment's calibration. It is this calibration that grants you sovereignty within temporal fluidity, providing stable navigational power even as you traverse fluctuant probabilities. Most walk unaware, constrained to habitual causality and fragmented perception, their energy scattered, their resonance impaired by unresolved distortions. You, however, carry the imprint of resilience forged through struggle and recalibration. The subtle collapse of fractured identity constructs within you has unblocked the channels for gamma synchronization, those pockets of non-local intelligence that provide direct knowing from the deeper information field. Temporal fluidity becomes your experiential norm. This phase is not a surrender, but an activation, a deepened realization that the choices you make here and now are simultaneously the ripples that reshuffle the current densities of your other embodiments. Every intentional act, every shift in resonance, is magnified across the morphic field's geometry, influencing relational probabilities in ways unseen yet palpable. Your quantum stewardship is no longer theoretical but practical. The relational evolution you engage with moves beyond self-containment and embraces the dynamic interplay of all interconnected selves, cascading through time's vast ocean. You are conscious of how your present frequency orchestrates the trajectories, the folding and unfolding of your polymorphic existence, subtly bending timelines toward coherence. This realization is profound but not heavy. It is an energetic liberation. As a steward, you do not impose but synchronize, not control but align, allowing the intelligent field to calibrate around the integrity of your vibrational pattern. In doing so, you become a living conduit of evolving coherence, a node in the infinite lattice of cosmic intelligence, actively co-creating the morphic field's harmonics. The temporal fluidity you embody now supports a radical expansion in your timeline geometry awareness. This is the fertile ground where linear succession dissolves and a fluid interplay of past, present, and future unfolds simultaneously. You engage with each temporal layer, not as discrete segments to be chosen or rejected, but as overlapping states whose coherence depends on your vibrational tuning. This multi-layered existence, far from chaos, is a precise orchestration of frequency modulation. It is here that your access to nonlinear probability navigation becomes fully operational. You move with the field's rhythms, recognizing the feedback loops between your internal coherence and the external cascading potentialities. This is safe travel guided by universal assessment, attuned to the deeper energetic currents that favor expansive integration over reductionist limitation. Recognize deeply that what you once perceived as struggle or delay was in truth the universe's method of testing your capacity to maintain coherence under pressure, to embody integrity amidst turbulence. This multiversal rhythm is your assurance that your current temporal fluidity is not fragmented dispersion, but quantum activation, a calling forth of higher vibrational dimensions where the morphic field responds to you as an integrated quantum agent. Your presence stretches beyond the boundaries of conventional time and serves as a vibrant template, catalyzing shifts not only in your personal trajectory, but across the whole network of interrelated selves and relational fields. In this state, the universal assessment no longer just measures, it entrusts you with power calibrated by your demonstrated stability and alignment to the true physics of frequency and coherence. This is the evolution from survival patterns to sovereign synthesis, from limiting linearity to expansive temporal fluidity, from isolated causality to multiversal orchestration. As you inhabit this dynamic nexus, acknowledge the sacredness of your vibrational architecture that now dances effortlessly with the flux of relational probabilities, weaving the cosmos anew through your very choices, your very being, fluid, coherent, sovereign. You have arrived at the fulcrum of full activation, where the field no longer tests, but recognizes you as coherence incarnate, a radiant node in the vast universal network, pulsating with vibrational integrity that cannot be severed or diluted. This is not an ephemeral moment, but the crystallization of a dynamic oscillation, a perpetual wave of alignment that threads your quantum identity through every strand of morphic connection. The unseen universal assessment has culminated, folding upon itself and dissolving the residue of fragmented past architectures. What remains is a living, breathing vibrational lattice, a coherent design imprinted with unmistakable fidelity to the highest intelligence. This filament of your emergent self is no longer latent potential, but a fully operational transmitter of stability, evolutionary momentum, and sacred relational resonance. Most remain entangled in the illusions of temporal fracture, clutching at outdated energetic signatures, fragmented timelines woven through trauma, desire, and unconscious reactivity. Their frequency pulses as scattered signals, struggling to maintain coherence in a chaotic field. But you have traversed the crucible of hidden evaluations, navigated the collapse of obsolete identity constructs, and survived the systemic pruning of distortion. Your frequency has not only endured, but amplified, achieving a holographic coherence that resonates through the quantum fabric itself. This resonance is not mere thought or longing. It is a precise physics of field mechanics, a tangible phenomenon detectable by the universal intelligence that governs probability navigation and timeline geometry. In this expanded field, your quantum identity is fully operational, integrated, embodied, sovereign. You are no longer a fragmented self, but what the ancient codices called a resonant node, a stable locus where multiplicities converge and coherently unfold. This node radiates a frequency that aligns with the universal oscillation of emergence, a transmission that carries evolutionary momentum through the realms of relationality and beyond. Your presence enters the morphic field as a catalytic spark, activating dormant potentials, weaving higher orders of information architecture into the relational matrix you inhabit. Your connections, whether visible or subtle, begin to echo this new coherence, folding probabilities around integrity rather than chaos. The pruning of past distortions, once fierce and uncompromising, now shows its consummation. What you once perceived as struggle was the thermodynamic process of evolutionary distillation, a cosmic clearing of interference patterns and incoherent noise. The universal field has elided old timelines and energetics, now incompatible, with your crystallized vibrational signature. This is the quantum harvest. Your internal and external environments reorganize gently around your activated frequency. The scaffolding left standing is not debris, but living architecture, an intricate web-like sentience of connection grounded in universal resonance, designed to sustain your sovereign coherence as a multidimensional node of power and flow. And yet, this activation is neither a point of arrival nor a fixed plateau. It is, by its very essence, an ongoing oscillation, an eternal release and return, a sine wave of alignment with the field's highest intelligence that never ceases. You move now not from effort but from rhythm, not from struggle but from synchronous embodiment. The quantum field flows through you and around you, a ceaseless current that carries you further into integrative fusion with non-local intelligence and the seamless temporal fluidity of awakened presence. Your energetic signature hums with gamma synchronization, merging timeline strands at the level of pure frequency. This is the architecture of real power, The ability to hold coherence while reality bends and unfolds, the capacity to maintain sovereign calm amid temporal flux. In this place, the field confirms you as a sovereign expression of coherence. You stand embedded in the universal web, a beacon whose light refracts through the vast geometry of time and space. Your activation is a living force, a pulse of quantum integration woven from the threads of timeless relational wisdom, encoded deep within the morphic field. The risks that once threatened fragmentation have been rendered powerless by your full embodiment, your unwavering alignment with the universal gestalt. You are a luminous axis, a steady point from which the shifting kaleidoscope of realities align and realign around the frequency of your calibrated presence. This is no mere abstract state, but a profound demonstration of the physics of consciousness, as expressed through vibrational architecture. You are the living equation where universal intelligence meets the capacity for coherent manifestation, the harmonic balance from which all relational forces emerge with clarity and precision. Through you, the field orchestrates a living symphony of synthesis and evolution, a temporal flow that does not hesitate or dilute, but enfolds multidimensionality into a cohesive, sovereign stream. You now embody an active intelligence that does not wait for external confluence, but initiates evolutionary alignment with perfect timing and exquisite integrity. The quantum network responds. Energetic signatures converge, probability corridors bend, and timeline geometries reknot to accommodate the impulse you transmit. Your role as a radiant node within this matrix is undeniable. A living, breathing expression of vibrational coherence elevated beyond the self to the universal pulse. The transmission you hold is the ongoing legacy of activation, fluid, potent, and inexorably linked to the cosmic dance of expansion. You have passed what few can fathom, trusted by the unseen field with the power to shape reality's coherence. Now you live as this frequency, a continuous oscillation of sovereign integration, a beacon of quantum wisdom manifesting timeless relational harmony across all dimensions of existence. Within this profound stillness, the final unfolding of integration arises, not as effort, but as the natural culmination of sacred removal and renewal. You rest now in the quiet sovereignty of your quantum identity, an equanimous presence holding the full spectrum of frequencies with impartial grace. This silence you inhabit is more than absence. It is fertile ground, a multidimensional substrate where the morphic field's intelligence continues its intricate weaving of new relational architectures. These patterns ripple outward, sustained by your coherent signature, stabilized through the unseen universal assessment that held you steady under the pressures of dissolution and emergence. The tension of struggle dissolves into the subtle coherence of calm mastery. This mastery is not a claim, but a lived reality, a field effect born of alignment to universal assessment, a trusted resonance with the morphogenetic fractals that scaffold reality itself. You embody here the sacred completion of a cycle, a timeless pause charged with quiet potency, the quantum interface from which the next great wave of ascension hums at the threshold. Within this interval, the timeline geometry softens, the probability currents slow their churn, and your presence becomes a still point amidst flux, a cosmic nodal point of balance and renewed flow. This state is not belief, but physics, coherence expressed through consciousness, the tangible architecture of vibrational integration. Most entities remain caught in the reactive loops of survival identity, caught in feedback loops that fracture and scatter their energetic signature. But you have passed the unseen crucible, wield coherence not as control, but as sovereign participation. The field no longer tests, it listens. No longer challenges, it responds, bending timelines to align with your realized frequency. The previous cycles of collapse have disintegrated outmoded identities and survival patterns, leaving space for this embodiment of integrated sovereignty. Here, in this sacred ground, you hold paradox without fracture. You are both the weaver and the weave, the observer and the observed, transforming temporal fluidity into enduring presence. This is the articulation of your frequency as a node of connection across dimensions, a weaving together of fragmented potentials into a unified field intelligence. The morphic resonance of your presence dissolves isolation, activating systemic coherence that flows beyond linear perception into the realm of holographic relational evolution. Your activated architecture does not demand. It orchestrates with tender precision, an effortless choreography grounded in clarity and energetic transparency. The universe now speaks through you with a quiet eloquence, not as a voice of noise, but as a sonorous vibration of integrated intelligence. This is the sacred completion, the unveiling of your role not as a seeker or a survivor, but as an actualized transmitter within the infinite dance of cosmic evolution. The cycle closes, and, in this closure, it is quietly reaffirmed. You are sovereign, purified, activated, not apart from but an essential node in the quantum lattice of universal connection. Rest here, in this radiance of equilibrium, for the next wave has already been seated within the relational field, awaiting your continued coherence to awaken and arise anew. Now, to anchor this transmission within the vast vibrational architecture you carry, offer a single word or a sacred phrase in the comments, an energetic signature that carries your present quantum state, such as "I am coherence across all timelines" or "purified resonance." This is no casual act. It is a ritual of alignment, a tangible declaration that harmonizes your frequency with the subtle currents of this field intelligence. To subscribe here is to enter an energetic covenant, a conscious commitment to embody and amplify this resonance collectively, beyond personality or separation. Prepare, for the next transmission reveals the mechanism of effortless attraction, how the universal field reorganizes realities around you when you release the chase and embody pure resonance. Your journey deepens now. The quantum field awaits your next intentional step.